Meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Commission March meeting started. And with that, we'll ask Caitlin to read into the record the public disclaimer. The public disclaimer, yes.
Yes. Okay. Notice of the March 10th, 2021 meeting of the Real Estate Commission, including date, time, and location, has been noticed on the Tennessee Real Estate website since August 26, 2020. Additionally, this month's agenda has been posted on the website since Friday, March 5th, 2021. And now for the roll. Commissioner Joe Begley. Commissioner Diaz.
Here.
Commissioner Ferris.
Here.
Commissioner Franks. Commissioner Gwynn.
Here.
Commissioner Moffitt.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Torbett.
Here.
Chairman Grease.
Here. Thank you, Caitlin. Do we need a statement of necessity approved today?
So apparently we no longer need statements of necessity. That was taken out of the last executive order. So no statement of necessity necessary.
Perfect. All right, at this time, then we're ready for Commissioner Torbett to lead us in invocation, followed by the pledge. Stacy.
All right. Invocation first, correct?
Yes.
Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I thank you for all of our health and safety. I ask that you bless our efforts, give us wisdom and discernment. Please guide and direct our leaders and help us to love one another as Christ loves us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If you'll please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Stacy.
No problem.
We're going to move this meeting along because Commissioner Torbett has got a lift ticket she needs to use as quickly as possible. Next up is to approve today's agenda. Is there such a motion?
Move to approve the agenda.
I've got a motion by Mr. Diaz, seconded by Ms. Torbett. The agenda be approved. Any discussion, additions? If not, if you're in favor of approving the agenda when your name is called, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, no. Caitlin?
Commissioner Diaz.
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris.
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn.
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett.
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, the agenda is adopted. Next up is a waiver request. Caitlin, it's Brenda.
I was gonna, do you mind also adopting the minutes from last month?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that first. You all received a copy of the minutes. Mr. Diaz makes a motion to approve those minutes as presented, and it is seconded by Ms. Smith. Is there discussion? If not, vote yes when your name is called. Vote no if you don't want to adopt them.
Commissioner Diaz.
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris.
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn.
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett.
I think I'm supposed to abstain because I wasn't here last month.
You can do whatever you want to.
Thank you. Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, so last month's minutes are adopted. Now to the waiver request.
Okay, well, I can give everybody a little bit of a background on this. This isn't a typical waiver request. This candidate, there is a law that says all applicants must pass both portions of the exam and submit that to the commission within 6 months. And this candidate reached out, I believe it was in February, and wanted an exemption from that. They took the first portion of the exam last February, and they took the second portion of the exam in July. And so that's outside of the 6 months that's required by statute. And you might be asking, why are we even seeing this? And the reason is there are some provisions under the executive order, and I can read that to the group so that you know what it says. Let me find it and I will read it. But it essentially allows for a reasonable extension. Okay, it says educational and training deadlines administered by the Department of Commerce and Insurance may be extended. The provisions governing the initial issuance and renewal of licenses, permits, and certifications issued by the Department of Commerce and Insurance and the boards, commissions, and agencies administratively attached to the department are suspended to the extent necessary to give the Commissioner of Commerce and Insurance and the boards, commissions, and agencies discretion to reasonably extend the deadline for obtaining the required testing, education, continuing education, or in-service credits as necessary to respond to the effects of COVID-19. And I think, part of the reason that we decided to bring this is because we get a lot of requests of this nature. And so I know myself and I think legal would like to be consistent on what we do. And I think the question about what's reasonable is hard to define when we look at our law, and then we also look at the executive order. And the only thing I'll mention that just muddies the waters a little bit more is that there might have been a gap between some of the executive orders. And so this is why this is here in front of you.
So Caitlin, are you getting a lot of requests like this, or is this just a one-off?
We do get this request, and we get it in COVID times and we get it in non-COVID times. And typically the answer would just be the statute is very clear. Both portions must be submitted within 6 months. Sort of, it's not black and white. It says 6 months. And it's also included on the exam application. So it shouldn't be a surprise. But the executive orders that were issued, and I think the other kind of question is this applicant did take the first portion of the exam before the first executive order was ever issued. So it's just not clear cut as to whether we should apply this and, what exactly is reasonable.
So Caitlin, how far outside of the 6 months did we get her complete application? Was it soon after, or was it months past before she got it all in?
I believe, let me confirm for you, but I believe it all came in, I want to say either January or February, which the first portion of her exam, March, April, May, June, July, would have needed to be submitted by August because the first portion was passed in February.
Okay.
The second portion was passed in July. And so, but from her letter, it appears that part of the issue was the firm and getting with a firm. So I think,
So
I think
I
that,
guess what has been our practice? Does the 6 month clock start with the first portion of the exam when they first take the test, or when they finish the second and pass the second part of the exam?
No, the way it reads is both portions must be passed
I see.
and
Okay.
the license must be applied for within 6 months.
Okay, so she passed the first portion in, you said April?
Sorry,
2020?
February.
February 2020. And she passed the second portion in July of 2020.
And so by those standards, it should have been, based on the statute, The application
Okay.
should have been submitted by August.
Okay, so under that, then the clock starts ticking from when you first sit for the exam.
Yes, yes, when you first
Okay.
pass any one portion.
Any one portion. Okay.
Mhm.
And so is it, I mean, is Anna, are you with us?
I'm here.
Hi, good morning, Anna.
Hello, good morning.
So is it your opinion that the executive order allows us to give her some grace, or is it kind of muddy there too?
So that's one of the reasons that we brought it to you guys, to the commission, is because so the state portion was passed in March, expired in September. The national portion was passed in July, expired in January. The language in the executive order says reasonably extend. So our specific question is, I can see reasonably extend applying to the national portion that expired in January, but the portion that expired in September seems a bit long. But I could go either way on those, but that's just kind of my opinion of where we are right now. Was that clear?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So I think whatever the commission decides is going to set guidelines for the staff with other licensed candidates. So kind of what's in front of us is to say the statute controls, we've got to go with it, or to say the governor's executive orders, regardless of how timely they might be in this case, are those orders were made to give people some room to maneuver outside the statute. And
Right. So there's definitely like a time period where we can extend the 6 months. That I don't have any issue with. It's just how far you want to extend that 6 months from our statutes. How far beyond?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
yes, Dave.
How far off in days is this person? Is she 30 days? If we said we'll give you 30 days grace due to COVID, just as a possible motion, would that cover this person, or is she farther beyond than that?
She's further beyond than that. I'm
How much
sorry.
farther?
In her letter, she had stated she took it in February, but I was going to pull up. Anna said that she took the first portion on March 5th, and so 6
Of
months from 6 months
March
from
5th?
March of 2020.
March 5th. And she took the second part, I thought you said in July.
Yes, I'm pulling up from PSI's website the exact date so that you can have it. So, so 6 months from March 5th is September 5th. And so that's when that portion would have been due. And then, the second portion would be 6 months from when she passed the second. But typically, both portions have to be passed within 6 months and the license has to be applied for.
So she passed within, let's call it 7 months, roughly, February to September.
So sorry, she passed both portions within 6 months. She
Okay.
just did not apply for the license.
And she applied when?
I was trying to confirm when we first received her application. Let me. And it might be also, I'm not finding an application in CORE, but that doesn't mean that there's not one. I think that she might have just reached out because when she spoke to us, she realized. But let me confirm that for sure.
From her letter, it says she was told she could not apply for a license until she completed her 30 hours of online classes.
Yes, I mean, we, somebody has to meet all requirements.
Caitlin, what's your opinion on, is this, the 6 months we have in there now is not unreasonable, correct? COVID or no COVID?
I think
Or am I wrong on
months,
that?
I mean, I think 6 months is a good amount of time.
Well, the question is, did she have access to testing for the second part during COVID, or were the examination stations shut down?
So they were shut down in April and reopened in May.
Okay.
And, I would say that May, was a hard month potentially to get scheduled just because of the backlog from being shut down for a month. But it didn't,
But then
I
there's June.
I guess the issue with this one is this applicant was able to take both parts of the exam within 6 months.
She was, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then after that, she's got both parts of the exam. The application is online after that with TREC, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
And
and y'all weren't shut down at all,
no,
operationally speaking.
yes, we never did shut down. I think in her letter she stated that, after she had passed both portions of the exam, part of the issue was finding the firm. And I can find the first email that our staff sent her where we told her that her exam scores were expired was on February 8th. But I'm pulling up her her application now. So we received her application on 2/5. And I can confirm when she took the 30 hours as well.
2/5 of 21.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the question is what she did between July or September of last year and
So it appears her 30-hour course was taken on December 8th. So that also, and that doesn't, I think what Joan said was true, that she had not taken that at the time that she had passed both exams.
I guess my question is this. The 6 months starts, help me with my thinking. 6 months starts from the time she takes her and passes her last part of the exam. Is that correct?
The first part.
Her first part.
Yes.
So she has 6 months from the time she passes her first part of the exam to pass the second part of the exam and apply for her license.
Apply for license. Yes.
Okay. So
Okay,
that's
Kate.
is that what the rule of the law is?
Yes. And let me pull up the law for you so that you have it.
So if it takes me, if I'm applying and it takes me, if I pass the first part and it takes me 3-4 months to pass the second part, then I've used 4 months of my 6 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, hey, Caitlin, before you go digging that up, if we wanted to accommodate this request,
Yes.
how many months would we have to extend the current statute or policy to accommodate this lady's request? Is it from
say
September?
it would
Is
have
it from September to February, or what would it be?
I think you would be giving a year to take the exam as opposed to the 6 months.
Okay, that was my question just now. So basically what you're saying is she had from February of last year. Is that what you're telling me?
That's when she passed the first portion of the
When she
exam.
passed her first part of the exam, which would have been February or March.
Yeah,
she
yes,
had
it was
6 months from that point to apply for her license.
yes. Yep.
So basically we had March, April, May, June, July, August.
Yes.
So we are extending her from August of 2020
to now.
to now.
So that's really the question in front of commission, because staff will use whatever decision we make today for similar requests. So it's not inconsequential that we give good discussion on this and good thought to it. But at the end of this discussion, we need to do something that allows staff to say, well, the commission discussed it, and here's what they've decided.
And I think the decision would be concurrent with the executive order. So, if executive orders that have this provision are active, obviously, this won't come into play when there isn't an executive order that allows for any type of extension.
Right. So it's given the commission, in this case, under the executive order, discretion to decide.
Yes.
What happens, Caitlin, in the event we say no? Does she start all over again, or what happens there? And does she have to pay money again, or she's got to take a test again? It costs X dollars or whatever.
Yes. If you guys were to say no, she would have to take both portions over again because I believe it was the state exam that she passed in March, and that would expire September. And then I believe it was the national that she passed in July, and so that would have expired in January.
Wow. Was she communicating with y'all during this period of time, or did she kind of go radio silent? I don't want to dig too deep into it, but I mean, if there was communication going on and she knew what was happening, as far as the time frame getting out of control, then just less sympathetic, at least.
I
don't.
It's not uncommon for people to not see or on the application it says this application is only valid for 6 months from the exam date, but it's not completely uncommon for people to come to us with their exam scores after they've expired. And
even still, I mean, I think our profession is something where we always talk about time being of the essence.
Correct.
So I don't know. I'm not unsympathetic, but at the same time, I don't want to create a precedent where somebody, regardless of circumstances, can wait 6 months beyond their test, beyond expiration of their test to apply and expect to get an approval. So I think that 6 months is too far.
Are we clear on application that it says 6 months past the first day of passing the first portion of the test? Or does it
So,
say passing the total test?
so,
How does that read? Because I think that's real important.
so let me read you the statutes.
Well, I'm not just talking about the statute. I'm talking about when I go to apply for my license, does it say 6 months past passing the test, or 6 months after I pass a portion of the test?
So the what we call the application that candidates actually complete is the results from PSI.
Okay,
And on that portion, it says, congratulations, you have passed the real estate licensure exam listed above. You must pass all required portions before you can apply for your Tennessee real estate license. This application is only valid for 6 months from the exam date.
so it doesn't really say from the exam date of one portion or the other. I think that's a little confusing. Is that confusing just to me?
I see your point, Joan. It could possibly be clear. I'd like to get it in front of me where I can actually read it. I'm looking for that online now.
Let me get.
I'm not saying just in this case, but I think when we go back to her, are we counting from February or are we counting from August?
Well, I think regardless of where we're counting from, the exam that you took in March expired in September.
Right.
So that's gone. And then she took an exam in July, and that one expired in January. So her exams, both portions, expired.
Right.
So whether the statement when you pass the exam is clear about 6 months from this exam date, you
Right.
get that both times.
Right.
So you know a clock's ticking, and I fall back on, yeah, we're a profession where time is of the essence. You know, you have a clock, it's ticking, you know it's ticking. If she had questions about whether her exams were about to expire, the real estate commission is there. They never shut down their operations. I mean, I just think she had avenues to pursue. I know she had circumstances, but she had avenues to pursue where she could have gotten her application done and submitted in time, or at least closer to her expiration dates, so it wouldn't be such a stretch for us to give her some grace. I just think we're way out there. And then how do we say no to other people coming back to us in the future?
Because we're looking at a lot of months on this particular from this particular letter.
Yeah, I mean,
DJ.
you know, we're at a year. We're at a year from the original date. You know,
I'm gonna put
DJ.
the statute in the chat.
She appreciates it. Caitlin just put it in the chat for us to see here. 1 second.
That is the statutory requirement.
yeah, it's on page
That's how
20
it
of the
reads.
book if you have it.
She might have read this. I don't know that she did. I think her circumstances were all consuming, in my opinion, based on this letter. I'm not going to presume how she read this statute, Caitlin, but it could be read. It could be that somebody could read it and think that I passed my second portion and I'm due, and I have till January. And so in her mind, she may think, or in that person's mind, they may think I'm a month out of being legal. I get what you're saying, Jeff, about.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying too, DJ.
Hey, Stacy.
Have you guys had any other people with these kind of circumstances contact you? Is this the only one you have through all of COVID that hasn't been able to get this done?
I would say no. We've had people reach out, and some allowances have been given if they specifically were set to expire in May when they couldn't have even taken the exam. But those have been in communication with us, trying to schedule that second portion, but unable to because PSI was closed. This is the first one that we've received that both portions were expired when she applied. And that's why we brought it to the commission, just because based on how we've previously treated all these, it's kind of been the 6 months. But this one specifically mentioned being affected by COVID, and so it felt like an appropriate one to bring to the commission.
All right, so I think for purposes of moving this along, I'm going to move to entertain a motion either to request, to deny Ms. Tushy's request or to approve it. And then once we get a motion on the floor, we can focus our discussion a little bit more.
I'll move
Jeff.
to approve.
Okay, the motion by Mr. Diaz is to approve Ms. Tushy's request and allow her to continue to get her license, and is seconded by Ms. Corbett. Now, discussion on the motion. DJ.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand that given the circumstances of the executive orders, and my opinion as a commissioner is to approve her request and let her become licensed and begin her career as she's requested in her letter. And in the months and years ahead, particularly in the short term, if something comes up where applicant has requested some leniency with regards to the time frame, I personally don't feel bound to apply this ruling across the board to anybody in the future, given the special allowances and under this executive order remark that was shared by Caitlin and Anna. I think this applicant had extenuating circumstances, and then I think state government has had extenuating circumstances. On one hand, I think it has been a long time, and I do wish that she had maybe demonstrated like some other candidates, like Caitlin just had mentioned, who had been in touch with them along the way and communicating. However, this past year was crazy and above and beyond a lot of what all of us really wanted to experience with, and so that is guiding my decision, and I'm going to vote for her to approve, to be approved.
Okay, other comments, Steve?
I guess the only thought I have on that, DJ, is, I mean, if we get another situation that's almost identical to this and we decide not to do it, then we're going to find ourselves in a situation as the way you did it for her, why not for me? So it seems to me like we are kind of setting a precedent, whatever we do with her. What I'm wondering about is, in lieu of one or two of these potential options, meaning deny or accept, that we come up with a kind of a blanket statement that says something to the extent of, we'll give a 60-day grace period for anyone that applied or took a test within 2020 during this COVID time. Now, I don't know if we did 60 days. I mean, 60 days is a third of the total time that exists now, which is, to me, pretty lenient. Now, I don't know if the 60 days helps her out or not. It sounds like it may not, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I'm probably going to vote against this motion on specifically her.
So it's been a long time since I had to take a real estate test to get a license. But do people who take those tests take a course before they take the test?
Yes.
People do.
Would it be logical to believe that the instructor or instructors would say, here's the process to get your license and the deadlines you have to meet? Does that happen? I mean, I'm struggling with the idea that this applicant didn't know she had 6 months to get these tests done and an application filed. That's my struggle. And I'm kind of with Steve on the fact that whatever we do is a precedent setting event.
Here's a
I think that's what staff wants, is some guidance from us that they can count on and not have to bring each one of them back to us because we want her to bring each one back. DJ?
I think she probably was informed either in writing in the application about the 6 months or hearing it from an instructor back in February of 2020 or whenever, somewhere along the way. I feel like this was probably communicated to her. And I just lost my second point, Chairman.
That's okay. I do that all the time.
Let me think what I was going to say. Oh, here's my question to Caitlin and the commission. And to going along with Commissioner Gwynn's remarks, and in an attempt to provide a blanket statement to from the commission, could we say, given due to the pandemic 2020, the existence of numerous executive orders, it is the opinion of the Real Estate Commission that any applicant seeking licensure in the year 2020, and we figured out some type of what kind of measures they need to meet, are given to, end of June 2021, which is 90 more days, some odd, to kind of kick this out and have a cutoff date. Because I do agree with Commissioner Gwynn and Jeff, what you said about this doesn't need to be open-ended. This needs to be particular to the coronavirus pandemic, of which this woman sounds like has had an up close and personal experience. And which I'm very sympathetic.
So the motion on the floor is pretty specific to just this individual. If it passes, then I'm going to ask commission to come up with a policy that staff can hang their hat on when they have these applications show up. So unless somebody wants to offer a substitute motion to the motion that's currently on the floor, we'll vote on it. It'll either pass or not pass. If it doesn't pass, the floor will be back open for another motion. If it does pass, then I'm going to ask the commission to say, okay, going forward, how do we want to direct the staff when these issues show up? So
I need to say something too. I don't want to try to get in the business of writing laws or making new statutes. So it's not our role. I know that's a role of the legislature, but you'll guide us on where we can and where we can't make these remarks.
Yes, and I think this is only concurrent with the executive order. When there's not an executive order in place, this question wouldn't be before you. Okay, I will call the roll. Commissioner Diaz.
One second, Caitlin. Is there any other discussion? If you're in favor of granting Brenda Tushy her waiver request, you'll vote yes when your name is called. If you're opposed, you'll vote no. Now, Caitlin, thanks.
Commissioner Diaz.
No.
Commissioner Ferris.
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn.
No.
Commissioner Moffitt.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett.
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
No. All right, that motion passes and Ms. Tushy's request is granted. Now, commissioners, going forward, now that we've handled that, how would you like staff to handle these issues that may again show up related to the pandemic and the governor's executive orders? How much leniency or latitude do you want to give the staff? DJ and then Steve.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'd make a motion that we give 60 days grace period, or I don't know if it's 2020. If you go back, Caitlin's comment of, let's say the testing situation was down for 30 days and, you kind of double that using, just conservatism. So I would make a motion that we give 60 days grace.
Is there a second? Mr. Diaz seconds that motion. Now discussion on that. So
60 days, sorry, Chairman, 60 days from, when does that clock start, I guess? When, because the clock starts when they take the test. They get
Yes.
6 months, so is it 60 days, you're extending that, or you're extending the time they can apply from when they pass everything?
Well, I think if you do one, you've got to do both.
So instead of 6 months, we're giving them 8 months if they
Right.
started their application in 2020.
Right.
You want that to continue during the course of the executive order, or do you want to put a date on it when it ends?
Well, I think it probably ought to. I mean, his executive order goes through April right now.
Mhm.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it would only apply during the time period for the executive orders while they're in effect due to the pandemic.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can reword the motion to extend for 60 days the application deadline during the course of the governor's executive order.
There you go.
the chair believes that's the motion that's on the floor. It has been made and properly seconded. Caitlin, does that give you direction at all, or is that helpful?
Yes, the only thing I would note is not that maybe it matters, but that would not have helped Miss.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
But yes,
Hence the
All
split
right.
vote.
Let's vote on the motion, which is to give staff direction to allow a 60-day grace period in the application process, as long as the governor's executive orders are in place. All right, Caitlin, please call the roll. If you're in favor, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no.
okay. Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett.
Yeah.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, so that item is handled. We're on to the Education Director's report. Mr. White. I know you're there, I just don't see you.
Here I am, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to members of the commission. It's a beautiful day here in Middle Tennessee. I hope it is where you are. I'll call your attention today to the March education agenda for the commission's review. I have personally reviewed and all of the courses, providers, and instructors M1 through M36 for this morning's meeting, and I present them to you for your approval.
I move to approve the education report as it is, M1 through M36.
I believe you're muted, Mr. Chairman.
I'll try not to cuss. The motion is to accept the education director's recommendation that courses M1 through M36 be approved. Mr. Diaz made the motion and Mr. Ferris seconded the motion. Is there discussion? Does any commissioner want a particular course pulled out? Ms. Smith?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. White, when, just in general, when you get these course to review, when you do that, do you interview these instructors, or are they just instructors that you're aware of? I'm just curious about the process. And this may not be the time to ask this question.
No,
It's the time.
that's a good question, Commissioner Smith. What I do is I do review the applications that they send in, and if they are somehow wanting in some respect, they didn't provide the information that I need, their resume and so forth, then I'll contact them directly to have them respond and give me that information before I produce it before the commission. But no, we have to review to be sure that their application and their background comports with the law and the rules.
Okay, thank you. And it's, but there's not a video or anything of them actually doing instruction or anything like that. It's just a resume. Is that how that works?
The application, resume, the fee, they have to take and at least pass that. It's a document there that's on our website. It's for instructors training, instructors training manual. So they have to read through that, and then there's an affidavit that appended. They have to also send that in along with their fee and application. And but I review them to be sure that they have that background in some form of education or speaking or authorship that would give them that background I think they need in education. But I think your point is well taken in that certainly in the future, and I think we have discussed this with executive director before about having them to provide some additional information as we go forward to improve the process and to just see what they bring to the table as far as their skills for education goes and their background.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to approve courses M1 through M36. If you're in favor of that, when Caitlin calls your name, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes, the motion passes. Ross, what about instructors?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, there's an instructor before you today on your instructor background form, and he's asking to be approved as well.
What's your recommendation?
I would recommend that he be approved.
Is there such a motion? Mr. Diaz makes the motion and Mr. Gwynn, we'll go to Ms. Torbett, seconds the motion. Discussion? Jeff?
And this is more the statement that I warned Ross about in my email. I'm not opposed to this applicant. I just want to say that we make a big deal a lot of times about agents going beyond the scope of their license. I just want to make the statement and caution our licensees. You may take this class, but it by no way makes you an expert in restoration or structural engineering or anything like that. And to please consult experts if you notice anything that could be water damage or the like. So you don't get out beyond your license. That's all I'll say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Oh, that's a good point, Ross. I also noticed this instructor is an active licensee with a particular franchise. There's a caution about trying to use a course to recruit people as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and he shouldn't be trying to sell any type of product that he's involved in. Rather, it is about the real estate education only.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to approve this instructor. When your name is called, if you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. Caitlin?
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. That motion passes. Anything else, Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Nothing else this morning from me.
Well, maybe I have one thing for you. I can't help but notice it. It looks like you maybe had surgery on your face or something because you're growing a beard and you can't shave. What is this?
That's my pandemic beard.
I've inspired him, Mr. Chairman. I've
Way
inspired
to
him.
go. Way to go, Jeff.
We've started a thing, Jeff, I guess.
So as soon as the executive orders are over, you're going to shave. Is that it?
Yes, I'm going to take that under advisement and listen to my wife, who will also, put in on that.
All right. Appreciate your sense of humor. Let me mess with you. Thanks, Ross.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're up to the executive director's report. Caitlin?
Okay, I just have 2 updates for the commission. I wanted to let the commission know that PSI started the virtual administering of the exam starting on 2/25. And so we are monitoring that to see how it goes. There was a lot of meetings prior to them implementing that to discuss the security of that. And it seems to be going well. We are having some issues with, there's been a change now. Candidates are emailed their exam results, where obviously in person they were given the printout. So we are working through some issues with that. Obviously, if the candidate fails to give their email address, then it's a little bit harder for them to get their results. So I'm working with PSI on that. That is a required field, but as we know, people can put whatever they want in a required field if they don't want to give their email address. So working through that, and I'll continue to keep the commission updated. And then the other thing I just wanted to let everyone know is that the E&O penalty phase started on 3/1. So I would expect to see an uptick in complaint total numbers. The commission actually won't see these complaints unless the licensee elects to go to a formal hearing. Otherwise, the statute is very clear. If you have a licensee under your supervision that fails to maintain insurance, there's a set penalty. And so the legal team works to send those out via consent order. Now, if the person or the licensee elects not to sign the consent order and proceed with it, then it would go to a formal hearing. And that is actually in front of an ALJ. So really the commission will only see these in the total number of complaints.
Okay, questions for Caitlin? Steve?
Caitlin, curious on the applications, what you're seeing in 21 so far. If I look back through kind of the last 3 years, it looks like, let's say, average applications per month are around 500 or so. We obviously had a big dip in last April, but what's happening? Are they ticking up?
Yes.
Above the 500 number? Is it 600 now, or what's happening the first couple of months?
So
I don't see those numbers on here.
Yes, they're on the first page under that first section, initial applications month over month.
That's what I'm looking at. I don't see 21. I see.
Oh, you know what? That's a typo. That's my typo. February and January are 2021 numbers.
Got it. So 620 and 567.
Yes, and
okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
basically,
Yeah.
this thing starts. I don't know. I guess January and February on 2018 are really January and February of 2019. Is that?
No.
Okay.
No, sorry, that's my fault. I took I'll get that corrected for you.
Okay.
But we are seeing an uptick really over the last year. I pulled the average of what we saw for 2020 and including January of this year and February of this year, and the average, and I did take out April and May because candidates couldn't test for portions of those months. And the average was 535 initial applications. And those are approved. So those are actually people that are licensed, not just, people that have taken the test, but people actually getting into the profession. And so we have seen an uptick really every month for the last year, with the exception of April.
Those 2 months. All right, great. Thanks.
Yep.
Other
So about-
questions? Oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Yep, so about 500 to 600 a month, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. 535 was the yearly average, with the exclusion of the months affected by testing.
That good, Steve? All right, Caitlin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
A couple of things. You're back in your office today.
I am.
It's a corner office, right?
It is.
Wow.
That's only by selection.
I understand. So what's the building look like now? Are more and more people showing up, or is it still a ghost town?
So it's still we're still under a schedule, which for our staff equals out to each staff member coming in once a month. And we're still operating by appointment. So any consumer or licensee that wants to come to the building can come to the building. They can come to the building with an appointment or without one. If they want to speak to a member of the TREC staff, then we suggest making an appointment. And a lot of times we get appointments and we're able to help them without them having to drive downtown Nashville. But on any given day, there's always a few people here.
Well, I'd like for the commission to be there at some point. I'm just curious. So anyhow, yesterday, Caitlin and Anna and Ross participated in a panel discussion along with DJ, Joan, and Steve. It was an hour-long session. I appreciate the staff's participation. Everybody gave good professional answers. We do this because we want to. I'm interested in just taking a minute's worth of time and asking Joan, DJ, and Steve, who participated for the first time, whether they thought it was worth their time to be there, and is it something you'd like this commission to continue to do? We don't have to. It's kind of an outreach. It's no requirement. So any impressions? Joan, what do you think? Let me start with you, then Steve, and then DJ.
I think it's important, and being on the other side for so many years, I think it's very important for the realtors to see the commission and to be able to ask those questions. So as a commissioner, I don't know how important it was for us, but for the realtor side, I think it's very important.
So
I think it's a very, very good way for us to build that relationship. So also, the questions kept coming and overlapping to the point where there were so many questions, so many good questions, that we were unable to answer them. And some of those questions, it's kind of funny because I knew what they were asking, but we were having a hard time answering them in the way that they really wanted an answer to. So I would really like to see us answer those questions, Caitlin, and I would like to see the answers. Well, I know that they ask us to respond to all those questions, and that may be a little difficult for the commission to do that. But I think that would be really good for us to be able to answer those in some form. John.
Thank you, Joan. Steve, what were your impressions?
Oh, I thought it was good. I think anytime we can be in front of the public, that's a good thing. I thought the questions kind of started off a little bit technical, which is, I guess, okay. The question I'd have would be, how did previous meetings like that happen? Meaning, obviously, we didn't do Zoom a year or two ago. Is it like a public meeting, like in where we normally meet, or how did it work before?
So in the past, we tried to work with the schedule of the Tennessee Realtors, and they have a spring meeting. And it for many years was it Franklin or Brentwood or somewhere south? And
Murfreesboro downtown. Right.
so the last year was downtown Nashville. And we would sit as a panel, and there would be 100, 200 people out there. And the questions, frankly, were written down on a piece of paper and passed up to Russ Farah, who asked the questions. To me, this was much more efficient. And people probably felt a lot more free to ask questions because they were kind of hidden behind a computer screen.
Right.
But here's the trick with those questions. Many of those questions, they're looking for specific answers so they can go back to their broker and say, this is what the commission said. And our position always should be is that every set of circumstances is unique. So you can't apply one answer to any other set of circumstances.
Right.
That's kind of as I say, it's kind of the trick, trying not to answer the questions in a way that kind of boxes you in.
Sometimes I just was curious whether in past years some of those questions kind of were asked because the people asking them wanted to hear themselves ask a question, and it's information that they really should know anyway, and they already know the answer, so you're wasting a bunch of time. I don't know if that's the case or not, but yesterday I didn't think that was that much the case.
Thank you, Steve. Joan?
Well, one of the things, many of you know that I just finished serving as chairman of the Residential Forms Committee. And so many of those questions I wanted to say, go look on page so-and-so of your contract, page so-and-so of RF 401, or go look on the disclaimer form. I really bad wanted to raise my hand and say, go look at form so-and-so, and sat on my hands. Jeff, you know what I'm saying. And so it was kind of difficult for me a little bit, but anyway, John, I thought you did an excellent job.
Well, I want to tell you one of the problems is when we're in person, I can look left and right and see if Joan's itching to answer a question, and I can refer the question to Joan. It was hard to do that in a situation like this.
I know.
DJ, your thoughts?
Thank you, Chairman. I enjoyed it. I think it is good to be in front of the industry, having, as Joan shared, been there. I've been practicing realtor for 13 years. And so by the chairman's math, I was 5 years old when I started. But I enjoyed it. I was really appreciative of Anna and Caitlin being there. As probably the newest commissioner on here, I shared this with my wife last night. It revealed to me that the practice of real estate in Tennessee, I could talk till I'm blue in the face. And I've never been on the forms committee as Joan has, but I'm proficient with the forms, how the game is played. But when it comes to what the statutes say and what the law says, I'm not as proficient there, though I am a quick study. So I'm thankful that Caitlin was there and Anna was there, because these questions need to be considered and they don't need to be hastily answered. And I'm looking forward to looking forward to what the chairman often says, getting in person and leaning in here, because we've been given a great responsibility. And Joan and Jeff and I know Steve knows a lot of commercial. There's a ton of professionals in our state. And to be able to be the face for them is such an honor, and to protect the consumer, and it's just neat. And I've always, as a practicing broker, thought I don't ever want to talk to the commission, but we're just folks like they are folks, and we need to be working in tandem even more so than we are. And the education director's report, I think, is great. So it's just I'm all about it right now, and I'm so glad to be a part of the effort here for our state.
All right, thanks guys for participating yesterday. And I say if the Tennessee Realtors ask us to participate next year, it sounds like we ought to do it again
I
on
agree.
our schedule, not theirs, if at all possible. That's what I think. All right, we're going to come back from a short break with the legal report. I'm going to tell you there are 14 cases that have been requested to be pulled. And I'd like to, in case anybody wants to get a head start, I'll tell you what those case numbers are, and then we'll take a break, okay? Their cases are 5, 9, 21, 31, 36, 42, 47, 52 through 56, 59, and 78. All right.
Mr. Chairman, you
let's
want to
do-
go ahead? You want to go ahead and make a motion to accept counsel on the others? Just dispose of that.
That
and then
sounds
break?
like a smart idea to me. Ms. Brown has submitted a list of cases on the consent agenda. The cases I've just mentioned are going to be pulled off the consent agenda. So the balance of the cases, which go, what do they go to? 80 something? I don't have it in front of me at the moment. What's the last case number?
87.
87. All right, is there a motion to accept council's recommendation on cases 1 through 87 with the exception of the 14 cases I just referenced?
So
Steve
moved.
Quinn makes that motion. Joan Smith seconds the motion. Is there discussion? If your name is called, when your name is called, if you're in favor of accepting council's recommendation on approximately 74 of the cases on this month's consent agenda, you vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Let's do this. Let's come back at 15 minutes till the top of the hour, and we'll get started on the other 14 cases. All right, let's get going. I think we're DJ's there. Waiting on John just for a second and Stacy before we start this. Jeff. All right, Shalene, let's go ahead and get started. We're short Jeff right now, but I suspect he'll be back at any moment. Number 5 is one that I request to be pulled. I'm confused about what changed. This is a team that's advertising. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And they had a logo that was out of compliance with our advertising rules. And they admitted they had that. But what I can't tell is what changed, where it says, and this was changed to the name of the firm. So is that like the franchise, or is that the name of the team?
It's the name of the firm and and after that, what they added was the realtor, the wording, and then they added the DBA as.
So does the name of the team show up in that anywhere?
I don't believe so. I'll have to double check. It's very close, and that's why the allegation was that it was very misleading.
Well, it sounds to me like the logo might have been a team logo that was incorrectly composed. And now they've changed, but I don't know that the team name is in the new advertising materials. That's what I can't tell.
I can quickly look at that and let you know. Okay, so what they did was they put the name of the team or the agent / the Greater Downtown Realty, and then they did the DBA of the firm.
Okay, so now it says, I'll just make this up, Nashville Realty, DJ Ferris / Greater Downtown Realty LLC, doing business as Nashville Realty, or something to that effect.
Yeah, Tennessee Realty.
Tennessee Realty. Okay. All right. So I don't see any problem with that then. So I'm okay with your recommendation because they did admit they did have bad advertising to start with.
Yes.
And they say on their own they're going to take a course and they don't need the commission to ask them to take that course, right?
Yes, I found that very surprising as well.
So you believe him or her?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept council's recommendation?
So moved.
Seconded by John Moffett. Discussion. If you're in favor of the motion, when your name is called, please vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no.
Sorry. Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. If that motion passes,
What
well,
about me?
what about Commissioner Torp?
Oh, you know what? This happened last month too, when you leave somebody out if they're absent. Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner Torbett.
Yes.
Sorry about
Yes,
that.
yeah, you almost need to start with Commissioner Torbett because she's given up an awful lot to be here at
I
this
know,
meeting.
I
at this-
should, I should.
All right, let's go to number 9. Okay, Shalina, this is a case which is a little confusing to me, but apparently an agent licensed in Tennessee is working without a license in Kentucky, is working in Kentucky with a Kentucky licensee. Is that right so far?
No, what's going on here, this is related actually to number 27. They are kind of companion cases that were referred to us by the, Kentucky Real Estate Commission. And this case, number 9, involves the principal broker. And the allegation is failure to supervise the broker involved in 27. Apparently that affiliate broker was engaged in transactions in Kentucky using someone else's credentials in Kentucky to, lead others to believe that they were licensed in Kentucky when in fact they were Tennessee licensees. So this was the principal broker of that affiliate. And this respondent stated that he was not responsible for the firm at that time. One of the agreements in place, actually, he says all of the agreements in place occurred before he even took the responsibility as principal broker.
Did you find that to be true?
Yes.
So how can we charge him with failure to supervise if he wasn't the principal broker?
The affiliate broker at issue was licensed in Tennessee. Although they weren't licensed in Kentucky and were using someone else's credentials, he's still responsible for that broker in Tennessee.
But he wasn't the principal broker at the time.
He was the principal broker in Tennessee, not in Kentucky.
I misread that.
So even though these offenses occurred before he was principal broker, he's held responsible for the actions of the agent while he's principal broker.
Yes, as my analysis of it was that because that affiliate broker was licensed in Tennessee, he had the duty to supervise that broker, even though this occurred before he took over the principal broker status in Kentucky, meaning he was still supervising that affiliate broker in Tennessee during that time.
So the firm was licensed in Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yes.
And there was a principal broker for the firm. And to be licensed in Kentucky, the principal broker also had to be licensed in Kentucky.
Right.
His argument is he wasn't the principal broker of Kentucky at the time, which kind of rings hollow to me if he was principal broker in Tennessee at the time.
Correct. And it was a affiliate broker that was licensed in Tennessee. So although this did not occur during the period when he was the principal broker in Kentucky, he was still the principal broker in Tennessee. The actions that occurred were in Kentucky, but he was still supervising this affiliate broker in Tennessee.
So the affiliate broker in question fraudulently used somebody else's Kentucky credentials.
Correct.
And that's case 27.
27, yes.
What was your recommendation on 27?
I believe, let me check.
Well, we accepted council's recommendation.
I know, I'm just curious what it is. I've forgotten them. I didn't realize they were related.
Yeah, I actually should have put these together. My recommendation was to close, and the only reason my recommendation was to close is because Kentucky did not take any action against this affiliate broker in Kentucky.
Well, he didn't have any jurisdiction, I guess, if he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
Well, they were operating as unlicensed in Kentucky at that time, even though they
Oh.
were using the credentials of someone else. The problem is there was no violation in Tennessee. As far as we're concerned, we technically didn't have jurisdiction because there was no violation.
I see. So, Shalina, I don't know that an affiliate broker can have two separate principal brokers. Maybe they can. But like, I'm a principal broker in Knoxville, and I've got a Kentucky license, and my firm has a Kentucky license, and I'm the principal broker for any affiliates that want to get a Kentucky license. It's one and the same. Is it possible for an affiliate to have a principal broker different in Tennessee than in Kentucky?
I'm not sure. I would defer to Anna or Caitlin on that. I would assume that there could be a different principal broker in the other state.
Can you
So
repeat the, oh, go ahead, Caitlin.
I was just going to say, I think in both states you have to be with a licensed firm. I don't think there's anything that says you have to be under the supervision of the same principal broker. I think there's probably agents that have a desire to work in Kentucky that maybe live on the border, but also do business in Tennessee. And the agreement it just requires that if you're licensed in Tennessee, you're with a licensed firm and a licensed principal broker. And it's the same with Kentucky. They have to be under a licensed principal broker with a licensed firm, but it doesn't say that they have to be the same.
Well, I don't think a licensee in Tennessee can have two different principal brokers.
If they hold dual licensure in two
No.
states or just the Tennessee license?
Well, to be a Tennessee resident and practice in Kentucky, you have to have a Tennessee license. You can't have two licenses in Tennessee. So you can't have your Tennessee license with a principal broker in Tennessee and a Tennessee license so that you can practice in Kentucky.
But
Right.
Steve?
You could have what Anna's saying, I think, is if you could have had a different license in Kentucky, you can go through all because the license that you have in Tennessee vis-a-vis practicing in Kentucky is under reciprocity, correct? So if you didn't have a reciprocal license, then you could take the test in Kentucky, do the whole deal without the reciprocity, and have a license in Kentucky with a different principal broker, could you not?
Well, the reciprocity says you're licensed in the other state to start with. So you can't, I know I'm picking at straws here, but you can't have two licenses in Tennessee. One so
Correct,
that you can
yes.
practice in Kentucky and one so that you can practice in Tennessee.
Right. I was just, for clarification, I was thinking, if you held both a Kentucky and a Tennessee license, then you could have two different principal brokers.
Right.
Because sorry, go ahead.
I don't know how that can happen. That's kind of what I'm confused about.
I don't think a Tennessee principal broker would have jurisdiction over your Kentucky license.
I agree, but to get a Kentucky license, you have to have a Tennessee license.
No, you can apply separately for a Kentucky license.
Right.
Right. So it applies, like the reciprocal agreement is only for those who choose to do it. So it's not required of everyone. So if you just have a Kentucky license, you would just have a Kentucky principal broker. But if you are a Kentucky resident and have a Tennessee license, you would need a Tennessee principal broker.
So I'll get this straight in my mind in a minute. So if I want to practice real estate in Kentucky, I can go get a Kentucky license as long as I got a Kentucky broker or somebody with a Kentucky broker's license to sponsor me.
Correct.
So is that what happened in this case? I mean, do we have two different brokers?
Initially, there were two different brokers, it appears, and then the Tennessee principal broker took over the Kentucky
Brokerage.
I guess, Kentucky office as the principal broker there as well. So there initially probably was two different brokers there.
So let's go back to your recommendation. You're saying this Tennessee broker who became a Kentucky broker assumed both roles. Let me say that he assumed both roles, failed to supervise an affiliate who was practicing in Kentucky.
Yes, but they were licensed in Tennessee at the time they were conducting their unlicensed activity in Kentucky.
So if we're going to try to assign a failure to supervise, I know this is not right, but we're going to assign it against the Kentucky principal, the Tennessee principal broker, who's in fact both.
Who was responsible for the Tennessee affiliate broker when he was fraudulently practicing in Kentucky.
Yes.
I would think the Kentucky broker might be the person more likely to be responsible for that than the Tennessee, but
We don't have jurisdiction in Kentucky.
I got it. All right, is there a motion to accept council's recommendation, which is to assess a civil penalty for failure to supervise? Motion is made by Mr. Diaz, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Discussion.
Question.
See, yes.
Because what I'm reading, the respondent is saying he's not liable for any actions of this affiliate broker prior to the time he assumed his principal broker duties, if you will. When a principal broker becomes a principal broker and becomes head of the office, let's say, and assumes liability for a bunch of affiliate brokers, does he, by virtue of that that act, assume all the liabilities of actions of those affiliate brokers prior to the time that he assumed that role, he or she? In other words, so, you take over an office, you're a principal broker, and you got 10 affiliate brokers who've been in business for 15 years, let's say. If there was an action against one of those affiliate brokers prior to the time that action happened, is that principal broker, let's call it, stopped from assuming those liabilities or no?
Well, in this case, this was the principal broker of a Tennessee affiliate broker who hadn't taken. Right. So he is responsible for the Tennessee affiliate.
Even though those actions that are in question were before he took over.
He took over in Kentucky after, but he was still the principal broker in Tennessee. So in my opinion, yes, he is still responsible for that affiliate.
All right. Okay.
See, to quickly answer your question, Steve, though, typically this commission, if an event occurred before somebody was a principal broker, we don't retroactively penalize somebody who couldn't have taken responsibility because he wasn't.
Okay. So we don't assign liability to somebody for actions prior to them taking over that job, let's say.
Yes, that's correct. All right, the motion on the floor is to accept council's recommendation. When you hear your name, please vote yes if you agree, vote no if you don't.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. We're on to 21. Joan Smith, you and I both pulled this off. Why don't you start first and tell us what you're concerned about?
I was concerned because it seemed like the agent just totally misrepresented the complainant in this for pulling sales for 2009 and 2010 for property that he's trying to sell in 2020. And I just felt like the recommendation was not of $1,000 and take the core class was not a penalty enough. What were your thoughts?
So just to quickly summarize the case, this is a situation where a 93-year-old woman gets a broker to come over and help her price her house. And it's alleged that he used comps from 11 years earlier and underestimated the value of the house at maybe $140,000. I too, when I read this case, also felt that this is pretty egregious, especially for a principal broker. And so there are some other charges that we could add to the recommendation of counsel, Joan, if you're inclined to do it. Let me just look at this for a second. The recommendation failure to diligently exercise reasonable skill and care. So here, Joan, what do you think about this? I'll do these one at a time.
Okay.
Do you think it's possible that this respondent made any substantial or willful misrepresentation?
I do.
Do you think that ought to be added to counsel's recommendation?
I do.
And how many dollars would that civil penalty be for that particular?
Well, I definitely don't think $1,000 is enough.
Well, you can do up to 1,000 for as many charges as you think are reasonable. So if you think this licensee made a willful or substantial misrepresentation, you could suggest up to $1,000 just for that case, just for that charge.
Well, how many charges do I see?
Oh, you only see one, but I'm suggesting some additional ones.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, under that same title, 6213-403, 7A is to not engage in self-dealing nor act on behalf of the licensee's immediate family or on behalf of any other individual.
Oh,
That might be an appropriate charge as well.
okay. John, well, here's what I think I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Is that we might come up with 3 or 4 additional charges that each charge would add an additional civil penalty of $1,000. You're okay with the concept?
I am.
Okay, so I've suggested that making any substantial or willful misrepresentation is likely in play here, and $1,000 civil penalty for that particular charge is appropriate. Jeff Diaz has suggested that 6213-403-7A, self-dealing, basically, is also in play here. Jeff, is that $1,000 civil penalty in your mind?
Would be, yes, sir.
All right.
So that's one more.
So we're up to 3 different charges.
Thank you, Jeff.
Here
Yes,
comes something else for you to think about. Any conduct, whether of the same or different character from that specified in this subsection, that constitutes improper, fraudulent, or dishonest dealing. Is that in play?
I think that's in play.
I would suggest $1,000 civil penalty for that's appropriate. And then back to 6213-403 again, there's a line in there that says to provide services to each party to the transaction with honesty and good faith. Do you think that?
I think that's definitely in play.
All right, so In the opinion of the chair at this point, Ms. Brown suggested a civil penalty of $1,000 and mentioned one charge. Commission has added 4 other charges that we feel are appropriate, which brings the civil penalty total up to $5,000. Would you like to make a motion to incorporate all that, Joan?
I would like to incorporate that. No, can I ask one more thing?
Sure. Let me get a second to the motion and see if we're headed in the right direction. Jeff Diaz seconds the motion. Okay, Joan.
Now, do you think taking the one class is sufficient?
It's up to you. I'm ambivalent about the class.
Is there a, Ross is not here anymore, is he? No, he's not. The broker core class, isn't there a class about estimating the value of property? Is there a class, something along those lines, or about, is a core class the only class that we could request him to take? Ethics? Principal broker is going to be ethics.
We don't deal with ethics typically
So
on
you
the
can't
real
do
estate
that.
commission level.
All right, never mind. We'll leave him alone. We'll just get in the pocket. Oh, there's
Okay.
Ross.
I'm here if you need me.
Well, I'm gonna move on, Ross. We do
Okay.
need you, but I'm gonna let you remain
I-
silent for a minute.
All right.
I see Steve has his hand.
Yes, Steve.
A question, has the complainant filed a lawsuit or a civil case against the broker, or do you know?
Sorry, go ahead.
For fraud or misleading. In other words, she sold the house for less than 100 grand less than it was worth because she was defrauded on the comps that were old. But we can find the broker all we want, but it's not helping this lady out, I guess. So I'm wondering if she's done anything independent, just out of curiosity, on trying to retrieve some of her money that she may thought that she sold the house too cheap for.
I'm not aware of anything. Of course, they are free to file a civil lawsuit.
They are
Unfortunately,
afraid.
they are free to file the civil lawsuit against this principal broker. Unfortunately, we can't provide any recovery for them in
Right.
this action.
They're afraid to do it.
No, they are free to. They
Oh,
are
free
able
to, free to. Okay, got it. Oh, thank you.
The motion on the floor is to amend council's recommendation, add 4 additional violations, each at $1,000. So total civil penalty of $5,000. If you're in favor of that motion, is there any other discussion first of all?
I would say that, we have other remedies in place for suspension or revocation, but that would hurt any affiliate brokers that he has under him, and they didn't do anything. So I'll go ahead and call the question, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if you're in favor of the motion, you'll vote yes when your name is called. If you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. So the motion passes. And before any of you start to think, well, that chairman guy's pretty smart about pulling out those 4 additional charges. In fact, when I read this case, I sent an email to Shalina, which I encourage you to do anytime you have a question, and said, what else could we possibly charge this licensee with? And she promptly sent me an email back with pretty much what I just read in. So thank you, Shalina. The mood of the commission at this point is that people who start defrauding intentionally or unintentionally are going to have to pay a price, it seems. Joan?
Yes. I'm taking this as a learning experience for me. So I need assistance. I see these cases and I see that there are issues. but I'm not quite sure what the penalties would be. So thank you for guiding me along. You and Jeff, thank you very much for helping me.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Shalina. Let's move on to number 31.
That's mine,
Jeff, this
Mr. Chairman.
is one you pulled out.
My only question is, I looked at the history and saw that they got a letter of warning. I wanted to see what the topic was of that letter of warning. What were they warned of?
We can quickly check on that. Carol, do you think you could pull that up?
For number 31.
Yes.
Yes.
I can do it. It's just going to take a second.
We could come back to it if you'd like.
And you guys just want to know what it was regarding?
Yes,
Correct.
the letter of warning, please.
Yeah, why don't we move to 36 and allow Carol a little bit of time to find that?
Perfect. Jeff, you okay with that?
I am.
Okay, let's go to 36. Okay, Joan, what's your concern about this?
My concern was, it appears that there was some emails or responding back and forth from the respondent, and I was just curious if you received copies of those emails. It was saying that according to this, the respondent never received a rejection, and that they were just saying that the complainant sent, they were just saying that they thought the offer was too low, and so they never received a rejection from the seller, and it was just emails back and forth. And I was just curious, was that just the respondent in their writing back to you, that that's how they were responding back to the offers? Or did you actually get copies of any of this?
Yes, I did get copies of these. Apparently, this respondent does not believe it's necessary to communicate via telephone at all, and it's not necessary to respond to an offer. The offer can expire, and there was proof also provided that these were all presented to the seller. So there's no question that they were all presented to the seller, but this respondent just didn't believe in communicating with the complainant broker.
See, I guess I have a hard time with that from my realtor side to my commissioner side. So I'm trying to separate the two just a little bit here. So
You want to make a motion, Joan?
well, I just feel like, I guess my realtor side says we need something in writing saying that it was rejected. Now, if as a commissioner, I should say, let it go, then you tell me, let it go. But I just think that just saying as a realtor to my fellow realtor, your offer was too low, we're just gonna let it be, and you don't get anything back, is a little disrespectful and not very professional. So you tell me, commissioners.
I'd like to,
BJ,
I'd like to make a motion to send a letter of instruction to this respondent to, regardless of how busy they are, and no matter what they've put in an email to somebody, to close the loop, basically, and to have everything in writing, provide a signed rejected offer I think that is the best practice, Commissioner Smith. It's not uncommon in Nashville, though, I will say from my experience I had a client make an offer on a property in Brentwood over the weekend. There were 15 offers. I got a prompt call from the listing agent. I did not receive it back, rejected and signed by the seller. I personally wouldn't want that burden as a listing agent to try to track all that down. I think she did I think she did what she had to do. She called and told me verbally. Taking it a step further, she and I have worked to put my client in a second position backup, which then turned into a tertiary backup, and all that has been signed and sealed. So I kind of have some. On one hand, I think this respondent did what they were supposed to do, but a letter of instruction, if you feel like that would feel better, I would support that. But it's I kind of am pretty gracious about this.
So you both are talking about courtesies that should be extended to each other. However, Anna, do you have any reason to think that there's a statute or a rule that requires someone to give a written rejection in a contract negotiation setup?
Not that I'm aware of.
And so it's back to Joan's thing about being a professional as opposed to being a licensee. A professional would get that feedback to you where you're comfortable about it. But I don't know that we as a commission can say, here's a letter of instruction that says you've got to do this when there's no place in our statutes or rules that say you have to.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Chairman. I move to accept council's recommendation and close the case.
Is there a second? Second, Steve. Quinn, further discussion? Joan, I'm leaving you unfulfilled, I know, but let's see how the vote goes. If you're in favor of the motion to accept council's recommendation, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Greaves.
Yes. That motion passes. Carol, are you ready to talk about number 31?
Yes, Commissioner.
Let's go back to that. Mr. Diaz asked what the letter of warning was about.
The letter of warning was concerning the principal broker's responsibility for supervising all advertising that came from the firm or the firm's affiliates.
Okay.
And advises him of the rules regarding
So not related
that.
to the case. Not related to the case we're before us now.
No, sir.
Okay. So Shalina, is this for you? Does this come down to a contract dispute or?
Yes, pretty much, because this complainant, for some reason, was under the impression they did not have to pay the full 6% commission as the seller of the property. And I'm not quite sure why they assumed this or believed this, because they signed the documents indicating that they, as the seller of the property, were responsible for the commission, the 6% commission.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move to accept council's recommendation.
On case number 31, Mr. Diaz's motion is to accept council's recommendation. Is there a second? Ms. Torbett seconds the motion. Discussion? Seeing none. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. Caitlin?
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yeah.
Chairman Grease.
Yes, so the motion passes. We're on to number 42. Get to that quickly. So, Shalina, here's my question on this. Why shouldn't we consider this a contractual dispute between parties as opposed to various violations of the Brokers Act?
The main reason in this situation, it was pretty egregious, and yes, I do agree with you that this is to some extent a contractual dispute between the parties. This complainant was the affiliate broker in the same firm. So that was the main reason why I determined that there were violations, because it was while they were engaged in working together at the firm that this all transpired.
It seemed to me the complaint was based on everything but brokerage. It had to do with a side business venture that went south. I mean, that's how I read it.
Yes, but this respondent was involved in this real estate transaction at that time. So because it was related to the firm and this complainant was at that firm and got involved in the investment opportunity, I determined that there was a violation here.
And in your recommendation, there's a $4,000 civil penalty for 4 different violations.
Yes.
And you know the tone of this complaint better than any of us do. Are you comfortable if we had to have a formal hearing on this, that we could defend these recommendations?
Yes, unless, I mean, the only thing I would add is if the commission believed that this was unrelated to the, providing of real estate services by this respondent, although I disagree, but I feel confident that this was while they were providing real estate services and engaged as a Tennessee affiliate broker.
Well, I'll support your recommendation. Your explanation that your reason is based on events that occurred in a real estate transaction, not in a partnership, helps me. So is there a motion to accept council's recommendation? Joan Smith makes that motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Mr. Moffett seconds the motion. Discussion.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was glitching at the moment. What's the motion?
The motion is to accept council's recommendation.
Okay.
Steve.
I'm assuming that the complainant is licensed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other discussion? If you're in favor to accept the council's recommendation, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no when your name is called.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
No.
Commissioner Gwen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. That motion passes. Number 47 had a couple of terms that I just need a little explanation of. So I think this is the first case I've seen in a while that had Expedia included in it. Let me find this here. So somebody booked a short-term rental through Expedia. And the term channel manager came up in this complaint. Shalina, do you know what a channel manager is?
No, I don't know the exact definition of a channel manager. It's my understanding it's some third party that handles the payment for the booking and processes all of that. I can.
No, that's okay. Really, what I would like to know, to understand is, you say we have no jurisdiction because the rental is a short-term rental. Could you explain that to me?
Well, my understanding is that the short-term rentals are regulated by the municipality at the local level and not related to vacation lodging services. And this particular respondent is no longer engaged in providing vacation lodging services.
So what's the definition of a short-term rental? Less than 2 weeks? Or is that,
I believe it's defined usually at the local level. I don't know if we have a definition.
So I'm going to go to Anna, I think, on this. Vacation lodging services has a maximum number of days. Is that right, Anna?
Hold on 1 second. I want to pull up the statute really quickly. I know it's 6213-104. It is no more than 14 days in the definition of vacation lodging.
I'm trying to figure out why this respondent didn't need to be licensed. And if this is a short-term rental, I would think he or she would have to have a vacation lodging service license, even though they used to, they don't now, but what changed?
I don't know if anything's necessarily changed.
It's a little complicated for my mind to grasp because it's going through Expedia, then through a channel manager, then to the respondent. So the booking is going through Expedia, and then there's a channel manager, whatever that is. But we've got a respondent at the end of the day getting paid to manage a short-term vacation rental, it seems to me. Any thoughts, commissioners? This was a short-term lease, so it's under 14 days clearly. And the respondent is not the owner of the property. I think I could make the case that this person should have been a vacation lodging services licensee. Anna, do you think I can make that case?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out what the definition is for the short-term rental in this particular instance, because short-term rentals, certain programs are only, like Selena mentioned, managed at the municipal level. So I'm trying to find what distinguishes that from vacation lodging service. So if you guys would like to come back to this, I will keep looking on that and we can
Okay,
discuss it.
comfortable with that.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
question. Not to have to dig too deep into this, but when basically the person's charged something on their credit card and they couldn't show up and they kept the money, correct?
Somebody kept the money.
Right. So when the charge was made, do we know what agreement was in place? In other words, whenever I get a hotel room or I do anything related to any kind of a short-term rental, I've got an agreement that says if I pay you this, you do this. And so what we don't have a copy of, or do we know what the agreement said when the person charged the vacation rental?
The
Because
private,
see what I'm saying? I mean, maybe it said, if you don't tell us 30 days in advance or whatever the parameters are, then we keep your deposit. I mean, I don't know.
well, the main problem here was the rental did not receive the funds from the intermediary who took the funds from the booking. So the rental was canceled after they contacted the complainant and let them know that there's a problem with the booking. So this wasn't just automatically canceled. Not that that's okay, because this person paid for the rental. The problem is there was an intermediary that held the money and didn't pay the rental company.
The rental company.
Right.
So when the customer went back to get their money back, they didn't have it because the intermediary kept it. So I don't understand why this is a Tennessee Real Estate Commission deal when it sounds like it's a contractual, but maybe I'm not understanding it right.
I agree, Steve, because as I read this, the respondent never got the money anyway. It
Right.
looks like it's that third party has the funds.
Right.
So I don't dispute that at all. The question I have is, does the respondent have to have a license generally? Forget this case. Or is he or she working legally because of some reason, which I don't know? Anna, you want to keep working on it? Let's go on to number 52. We'll come back to 47. All right, Shalina, this is my, I feel more comfortable with this one than the one we just talked about. Here's a case where apparently a real estate agent guaranteed the home would be sold. And eventually it was not sold, and there was a title issue or lien issues or whatever, but the guarantee said your home sold, guaranteed. And our guidelines say that if somebody does advertise your home sold guaranteed, every detail of that has to be included on the face of the advertisement. one of the details might be if we can't get a clear title, we can't sell it, or that it has to appraise or whatever. But my question to you is, did the advertisement have all the details, any contingencies included on the face of the ad?
The advertisement does state that there must be an agreement entered into between the real estate firm and the seller of the property. So it does disclose that. And the issue here was that there was no agreement between them. It turned out later that the property was not even saleable, but the initial agreement entered into was for the listing.
I'm good. I don't care about the listing. I care about the advertisement. And I want to know if all the terms and conditions, what contingencies might be involved were included on the face of the advertisement. And it does not sound to me like it does include.
It did not state that the property must be saleable, but it did state that there must be an agreement entered into for the guaranteed sale program.
And so inside that agreement will be a lot of conditions that, according to the way this commission interprets the statute rules, should be on the face of the advertisement. And so I'm going to suggest that your recommendation to close because the property wasn't saleable, from my perspective, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an advertisement that got this relationship going. An advertisement that should have included all the details of your home sold guaranteed or we'll buy it for cash. And it doesn't sound to me like that advertisement had all the details. It's sort of like saying some conditions apply. Well, that's bogus. That doesn't meet our requirements. So in my opinion, this is an advertising violation that needs to be recognized and a civil penalty offered. And it's a pet peeve of mine that we've got agents across the state who are putting these big signs or advertisements out without putting the conditions that apply. And I think this is the case.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, there are many firms in Tennessee that are now promoting this guaranteed sale, and most of them do not have the terms and conditions on the advertisement.
And in my opinion, this sounds like one of those cases. So, commissioners, discussion, what's your pleasure? Chair is open to any motion, including accepting recommendation of counsel that the case be closed or that a civil penalty be offered for advertising violations. Anything. Jeff, you're muted, Jeff.
So the max civil penalty for an advertising violation would be $1,000.
Yes. Is that your motion?
I move that we offer a consent order licensee that they pay $1,000 for violating the advertising rules for not stating all of the terms and conditions of their offer on the face of their advertising.
Is there a second? John Moffett seconds. So the floor is open for discussion. I might need to get somebody to close their mic, mute their mic. Steve, you need to open your mic.
Sorry, I thought I hit the button. This principal broker has a 2017 and a 2019 consent order. So I hate for you to go back and look up those, but are they in the same field this is, or different problems?
Well, we would have to check. We can pull that up.
just trying to figure out if there's like a pattern going on here or a different situation.
So, Shalina, should we come back to this one as well and let Carol research that?
Sure.
All right, we're going to move on to 53, but we're going to come back eventually to 47 and 52 just to keep track. Joan, on 53, you asked this to be pulled.
I did. I asked, and they were 53, 54, 55, and 56. They were all similar. And they were relating to, it appears that there are firms that, let me look here just a second, fraudulent real estate firms, and that an investigation was completed and the investigator was unable to find these locations. And my question was, what's the process for trying to locate these firms? Do we send an investigator to those locations? And were all of these the same firms? Do we just send someone out, or do we just try to look them up on what's the process for trying to locate those particular firms?
Yes, typically how we start out is we have a database that we can search to try to locate the individual. And that's very current. We use a service that keeps that database current. And most of the time we do have success in getting updated addresses for respondents that we cannot find. In some cases, we do send it to investigations to locate the respondent. And in this one, we did send it to them and they were unable to locate the respondent. And oftentimes they will even check various databases that are available to them at police departments to see if they can locate the company or the individual. These are all related, and it seems that over the course of, I guess, the past 9 months, we've gotten in these complaints, or actually I should say the 9 months that I've reviewed these, and we are unable still to find this respondent. So there's nothing that I can do, meaning there's no action I can take against this respondent for the unlicensed activity. So the cases are just pretty much sitting there and I can't proceed.
Are these all the same firms?
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
all of these? Okay. Thank you. That was just a question that I had. I wondered about the process.
So, Joan, would you like to make a motion to accept council's recommendation on cases 53 through 56?
That would be my motion, Chairman.
Is
Thank you.
Jeff Diaz seconds the motion. Further, Jeff, question.
Does the 2-year statute of limitations apply to these complaints? Or since we've decided to close the flag, does that hold them up?
I'm sorry, you were asking the 2-year statute of limitations for?
These complaints, I'm just wondering if our ability to act on these complaints will expire if a period of time goes by, even though we closed and flagged and referred.
No, we don't have a statute of limitations for bringing an action necessarily. I mean, of course, as more time passes, these cases are harder to bring and poses a problem in terms of, you know, having witnesses appear and following the case, but there's no statute of limitations.
Okay, so they're not going to go stale on it. Okay.
All right, the motion is to accept council's recommendation on cases 53 through 56. If you're in favor of that motion, when your name is called, you'll vote aye. If you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Gwen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Shalina, we'll come back to you in a few minutes on 47 and 52. Let's go to Pam right now for case number 59 with Jeff Diaz. Jeff.
Hi, Pam. I think the only question I had for this one is, you have an idea of how long the principal broker held the earnest money?
Pam, you're muted.
At some point, I promise I will do that automatically. The principal broker does not and did not have the earnest money. In this case, it was the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent's firm that actually held the earnest money. I'm not sure what happened to the earnest money ultimately. I did try to follow up and find that out, and I have not received a response from the principal broker regarding that, but I was able to verify through the documents and the releases that were done in this case that the principal broker and her firm did not hold the earnest money.
I move to accept council's recommendation.
Is there a second? John Moffitt seconds that motion. Discussion. All right, when your name is called, if you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. Caitlin?
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. We're on to number 78. Both Jeff and myself pulled this off, maybe for different reasons. Jeff, tell us what you're thinking.
Well, I wanted to know if the respondent notified the commission within the 60 days about their conviction.
Yes. The
Thank you.
respondent and her Tennessee principal broker did notify the commission within 60 days.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Pam, so your recommendation is to revoke the license.
Yes.
And it's kind of my position that anytime we're going to revoke a license, we ought to at least talk about it just for a second. So for the record, could you summarize what this respondent allegedly, or what she was found guilty of?
She pled guilty to a series of facts that in the Western District Court, federal court, so they are judicial admissions at this point, and those particular facts established that she was involved in a conspiracy to commit bank fraud, a scheme that began in February of 2019 and continued the last act through November of 2020. And this began with someone that she had met online and had an online relationship with, who encouraged her to become involved in this particular scheme. And what the scheme entailed was she would open a series of bank accounts and would attempt to deposit counterfeit checks into those bank accounts and then make withdrawals for cash, and also conspired with the person she had met online to have fraudulent wire transfers into those various accounts, and then follow instructions to have some of those transferred to other people. According to the admissions and the plea agreement, she had fraudulently received a total of $190,000 during this ongoing scheme. And so she pled guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit bank fraud and obtain money by false pretenses in violation of two provisions of federal code.
All right. Council's recommendation is to revoke this licensee's affiliate broker license. Is there further discussion?
I'll move to accept council's recommendation.
Is there a second? John Moffett seconds the motion. Discussion? When your name is called, vote aye if you agree with the motion, vote no if you don't.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yeah, yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Can we go back to 47?
Yes, Chairman, we would like to defer this to April to dig a little deeper and research this. There's a distinction between a short-term and a vacation lodging, and we just want to be correct on that. So we could request
Sure.
that the 47 be deferred to April.
Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Jeff Diaz makes a motion. Joan Smith seconds. Discussion. If you're in favor of the motion, vote aye. When your name is called, if you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes, motion passes. Last item, number 52, Shalina.
Yes, on number 52, the 2017 consent order was for an advertising violation, and the 2019 consent order was a failure to supervise.
Thank you.
So let's go to that. So the recommendation is to close it. I oppose the recommendation because I don't think the full details of the offer included in the face of the advertisement. I think that's where we left off.
There was a motion to impose a $1,000 civil penalty.
Okay, for advertising violation. Is there a second? Seconded by Steve Gwynn. Discussion.
I mean, I guess knowing that the consent order are somewhat tangentially related to this current violation, that would be a third strike. So is there any appetite on the commission for something more severe than a $1,000 civil penalty? Hearing none.
Okay, I hear no further discussion. So the motion on the floor is to offer a consent order with civil penalty of $1,000 for an advertising violation. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes when your name is called. If you're opposed, vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffett,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. So that motion passes unanimously. All right, Shalina and Pam, thank you for your efforts. I know it's not, we appreciate your work. And we also encourage commissioners individually to contact either one of these attorneys if you have questions about a case prior to the public hearing. They're very good about responding. All right, with that said, we have one item left to go on the agenda that, as I understand it. Caitlin, we have two items. Commission discussion. We want to talk about an informal opinion request and also the main meeting. Let's go with informal opinion request first. Caitlin.
Yes, so we received an email probably at the end of last year asking for my interpretation of that statute, which is not something that I give. And we essentially expressed that. And in response to that, we got this request for the commission to give their opinion of that statute. And so that's why you have a copy of this letter before you.
Okay, so this, I'm going to ask legal's direction on this in a moment, but the letter or the company, the entity asking the question has a business model that gives part of commissions back to buyers or sellers, cash back to buyers or sellers, or gift cards back to buyers or sellers. And the statute, Anna, do you happen to have that there that they're referring to? Could you just read that into the record?
Sure. The specific statute is going to be 621302B, and that states it is unlawful. A real estate licensee shall not give or pay cash rebates, cash gifts, or cash prizes in conjunction with any real estate transaction. As part of the Tennessee Real Estate Commission's general rulemaking authority, the Commission may regulate the practices of real estate licensees regarding gifts, prizes, or rebates that are not otherwise prohibited by law.
So bottom line, this company wants this commission to informally opine that we're okay with agents or agencies giving cash back to buyers or sellers, which flies in the face of the statute in my mind. And so we can ignore this request and somebody can make a motion to adjourn, or someone can make a motion and say, that says, tell the person asking for the opinion that we're sticking with the statute, or maybe we can do something else. Anna, do you have any advice for us on this?
I would recommend just having some kind of conversation pertaining to the informal opinion request. I think the ability whether to issue one is definitely within your jurisdiction, but I think for these purposes, it would be appropriate to at least discuss the matter. Because based on the information that has been provided, I do think they'll have additional information.
Jeff.
I'm of the opinion, I don't think we can give any brokerage, whether they're in the state or not, permission to violate our statute informally or formally. To me, it just seems like we're not only going to be giving them permission, but every other brokerage in the state can make an argument that we're giving them permission as well. So I would say that this letter, is his attempt for us to give him permission to violate our law. And we don't have the authority to do that. And he should send his letter to the legislature for a legislative fix and not an informal opinion from a regulatory board.
So my understanding is that they're not particularly asking for you to give them permission to violate the statute. I think they're asking to see if your interpretation of the statute matches how it's written. So, for example, when we were talking about this at the last meeting, the commission decided that gift cards count as cash. Well, that is not explicitly stated in the statute, so it's how you interpreted it to include gift cards. So I think they're just asking for what your interpretation is of the exact statute. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Jeff pretty well stated my interpretation of the statute. They're
Yeah,
just,
if he's talking about the numbers, $12,000 and up that our consumers save, that goes beyond the capacity of any gift card I know to contain as that much cash. Yeah, I just think, by the way, he's giving him a cash incentive to go with him instead of some other broker.
so, DJ,
I agree with what Commissioner Jeff just said, and there's nothing on the statutes to preclude any firm from offering to conduct a service at whatever compensation they're able to run their business on. Instead of, that'd be my remark to this, to somebody, instead of doing a business at a certain amount and then giving money back to them, just do your business for free.
Well, and I'll go further and I'll say, since this firm has their agents on a salary and not a commission base, they are perfectly able to, in the agreement, waive receiving the commission. And they don't even have to receive the commission and worry about dispersing it as a rebate. They can just say, well, we're not going to take the commission and forfeit their side of it. Now, if the commission is 6% anticipating a split, again, I think the contract agreement has to be adjusted accordingly, but that's a negotiation between the parties and not for the commission.
so we'll keep the discussion going, but I'm trying to think of what kind of motion we'd like. A motion that acknowledges receipt of their request and a response that states the commission sees no way to read the statute that would indicate that you can give significant cash or credit cards back to buyers or sellers. I don't know, Anna. What do we want to tell them? I don't think there's any mood to capitulate to their request and interpret it the way they want us to interpret it.
Right. So I'm not very familiar with informal opinions and what is required to get back to someone. So, what we can do is we can have a discussion on the record, and if we need to come back and make a specific motion, I think that is something that is possible, but I don't know. This is the first time it's been requested of someone, so I'm unfamiliar with it. So I'd like to check with Mark or Tony to figure out how to exactly do it.
Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion that we defer issuing an informal opinion. I'd like to hear from counsel further, but I'd also like to hear from realtors and maybe even NAR about their opinion of this issue, since they're mentioned in the letter.
Hello? Can you guys hear me? This is Mark.
Yes.
Hey, Mark, stand by just for a second.
Okay.
So, Jeff, you want to hold your motion until we hear from Mark, or do you want to get it on the floor?
I'll hold it. Let's hear from
Mark.
Yeah, an informal opinion is basically just a discussion and then the decision whether or not by the board to put a motion on the floor to after you've discussed it and either choose to give a informal opinion or not to give an informal opinion, which in and of itself is an opinion that you're choosing to give. Basically, your discussion on the record will make up the informal opinion. For example, as you have discussed today, it does not seem the commission wants to interpret the statute any other way than the plain language of the statute. So I think that's fairly clear. Mr. Chairman, you can, or anybody can make a motion to either cease discussion or to, basically write a letter declining to give this company an informal opinion, or write a letter saying we don't agree with your interpretation. So it's kind of up to you how you want to respond to it.
So, Mark, let me ask you this question: why do we have to even put this kind of request on the agenda? Is there some reason that causes us to have to do it?
Well, you're the only one really that can interpret your own statute. So I think when this came in, somebody wanting to address this with the commission, we typically, would put that on there for you to consider.
So if a motion shows up in a moment that says we're not going to take any action or respond to the request, is that appropriate?
Yes.
And
you
does
can do
that, and so the discussion pretty much is on the record, and they can look at it and they can interpret our discussion without
Correct.
us having to formally make a motion.
Correct.
Steve?
I guess I don't know if Jeff's motion's on the floor. If I were to make a motion, I would keep it simpler, and I would say I make a motion that request denied, the statute says what it says, and we move on.
And there is a second to that motion, so that's on the floor at this point. Mark, you're okay with the structure of the motion?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, discussion. DJ?
Can council provide any more background to what this letter states in the last paragraph of the first page, where they claim that the Tennessee Court of Appeals confirmed their understanding of this?
So they're under the citation that's provided in the document is from a case that was in, it looks like 1994, 1995. And I think I don't think it's particularly on point with the statute. I don't think it particularly supports what their specific argument is. But so what happens is, like, if there is a conflict or a question of something, typically someone would either, go about that matter through the legislative route or possibly through litigation of some kind. And so when we're doing research, we look to see what information is on that particular statute. But that doesn't mean that the set of facts from 1994 apply to this specific situation. I think that they're distinguishable, and I think that what is written here does not say what they're asking. Especially since, let me pull this up really quickly. Especially since I believe that the statute was promulgated in 2007. So that's like a 13-year difference. Does that help you? Okay.
Okay, the motion on the floor, as made by Commissioner Glenn and seconded by Commissioner Diaz, will authorize reply to the letter writer, the opinion requester, and basically the summary of the letter will say the commission sees no reason to believe that the statute isn't what it is. terribly paraphrased. Steve, you might even want to say it in your motion, just so it's clear.
I think we just say request denied. The statute says whatever request you're asking us to make, we're not doing it. We're saying request denied. And the reason is because the words say what they say. The law is clear what it says. There's no vagueness, in my opinion.
And yes, I can clarify that the specific portion of the statute that they're referencing was not enacted until May of 2007.
Perfect.
So I think what this would kind of look like after the motion is made, I would draft a letter, send it to Caitlin and Chairman Grease for review, and then we would send it back to the requester.
And we'll copy all commissioners.
Right, correct.
Thank you. Okay, if you're in favor of the motion, which is basically request denied, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Gwen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moffitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Torbett,
Yes.
Chairman Grease.
Yes. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Anything else, Caitlin, to come before us? Oh, May meeting. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that.
And I don't even think anything needs to be decided about the May meeting, but Aaron Smith reminded me that the current executive order runs through the end of April for electronic meetings. Currently, we on the schedule are scheduled to meet in West Tennessee in May. And so I just wanted to mention that that's slightly to be determined as far as what happens with the governor's executive order. And I guess I wanted to see if the commission wanted to, keep that tentatively scheduled for West Tennessee, or if they wanted to kind of look at changing the schedule pending where we are.
Joan Smith, what do you think?
I would love for you to come to West Tennessee in May.
And so I think Jeff and Steve probably agree. So it's the sense that we ought to just keep it open for one more month and see.
Yeah.
What's the date in May?
May the 7th, 6th, 6th, and 7th.
Got it.
Thursday and a Friday.
Perfect.
All right, let's just keep it open, and hopefully maybe that's where we get together for the first time. It'd be pretty cool.
That is Strawberry Festival week.
Oh, hot dang.
That's right. I'll
Hey,
show you a good time that week.
That a girl.
You got to see the Shriners in their little cars.
That's right. That's right.
And anything else you have for us?
No, nothing at this time.
Other than,
sorry. I do have one thing. I mentioned it yesterday. The advertising rule that we were moving through the channels, I believe, is going to be presented to the General Assembly at the end of this month. So it is likely, I'm not exactly sure when the enactment date is on that, but I just wanted to give you an update to that one. And the other set of rules has been sent to the Attorney General's office for review.
Perfect. Stacy, are you on your way to Buttermilk? I can't hear you.
She's there.
Yeah, she's there. Okay. Well, have fun.
I'm here. I'm sitting in the car, and
Well,
I've turned on the video just so you can see.
Beautiful. How about getting out of the car? Thanks for sticking with us today.
Thanks.
You bet. Anybody else have any closing comments before we end for this day? Since we're all done, I hope you all have a great day, great week, and Stacy, be safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.